Okay. Now I'm going to record. Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Um, I, I'm so excited to have David Gibson back. I think, David, you've presented a couple of times at FMBR back in the day when we were doing things um, in person. You came down a couple of times, and um, I'll just let you know who did. If I read David's full bio, we'd be here all night because he is so incredibly busy and doing really wonderful work. But um, David is the director of the Globe Sound Healing Institute in San Francisco. It's actually in Sausalito, I think, offering state-approved certificate programs in sound healing and therapy. He's the author of the book, The Complete Guide to Sound Healing. He's also the top-selling producer of sound healing music. His music is in many hospitals around the country, including Boston General and UC Medical Center. He also runs the Sound Therapy Center at the Institute, offering 15 types of sound healing treatments. He's the founder of the Sound Healing Research Foundation, designed to help bring sound healing into the mainstream homes and hospitals. He's also set up the Medical Sound Association to figure out how to cure every disease in the world. He has created over 2,500 exercises for children based on all of the books on brain development for children of every age. So, really at the forefront of bringing vibrational medicine and healing and sound into into the West, and into Western medicine as well as alternative medicine. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, David. It's so good to see you again. And I can't wait to hear what you're bringing to us today.
Thanks so much for the invite. I always love working with this group. It's so interesting. So, first, I want to tell you a little more about the Medical Sound Association. We've now got over 1,000 doctors and sound therapists that are working bi-monthly, having meetings bi-monthly to create treatment plans for a wide range of issues. And the treatment plans include the medical details, the conceptual framework, and
Okay. I'm not sure what happened. I thought it was just me. It looks like we lost David. Let me see if we can get him back. He he lives in the Marin Headlands. Maybe his signal stopped. Okay, hold on. Hold on a minute.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay, good.
Sorry, the my power cord dropped off and my battery's not doing good, so it crashed without the power cord. Sorry.
Okay, great. Great to have you back. Thank you. Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
okay. Let me continue here. So yeah, um, need sharing turned on again.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah, we've got the Medical Sound Association, and we've got detailed treatment plans for a full uh, range of issues that are include the conceptual framework and theoretical framework for what we're doing with the different issues with sound, and then we've got the actual. hmm, let's see. This sound's not sharing, but that's right. That's okay. Okay, and then let's see. We're getting back. Okay, everybody do an ohm in their head. Okay, we're better now. Okay, so we got the medical details, conceptual framework, the safety guidelines, so we can get it into hospitals, intake questions, and the actual sound treatments, and then homework. And we've got 30-page treatment plans for grief, anxiety, depression, trauma, dementia, addiction, pain, autism, cancer, anger, sleep, schizophrenia, thyroid, traumatic brain injuries, adrenals, blood clots, heart conditions, digestion, suicide, end of life, and ADHD. And these are really well informed with over 1,000 doctors and sound therapists. So if you have any issues, you can check it out at medicalsoundassociation.com. Or if you're working on somebody with an issue, there's a lot of really cool techniques here. So I wanted to share that. Okay. Okay. So what we're talking about today is the basis of the universe, which is vibration. Vibration is the basis of all reality. I was a physics major at UC Berkeley to start, and I learned all about the physics of vibration all the way up to quantum physics. And so what I've learned is there's a basic realm of vibration from frequencies all the way up to music that we're going to be talking about. It's not, a lot of people talk about just frequency, and frequency is really important. It's the basis of the hierarchy of vibration. You could say that the difference between health and and wellness is the difference between, let me make sure, I gotta make sure my original sound on. Okay, then I'll come back here. It's Mercury retrograde, you know. Okay, so the difference between health and it's really the difference between chaos and stable, consistent vibrations. So fear is like ah, or anger, which is on the left here, right? And then we've got anxiety or pain or just stress, which is completely different than any vowel, any crystal bowl, Tibetan bowl, anything that does a drone, including tuning forks. And those are all stable like this. Anybody can feel the difference, right? What I've learned is peace is a frequency humming consistently. And the main problem that happens in the body is you start getting this chaos, fear, anger, anxiety, stress, right? And basically the frequencies of every cell and all the organs start fibrillating or buzzing. You get the tension. And that's the beginning of things not working well. A lot of people talk about things going out of tune. Well, that's major. If a cell changes its frequency to a different frequency, that's like cancer. That's really major. It all starts with just the 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 chaos, right? And that's the basis of all sound healing. So there's a lot of people that are just playing crystal bowls and all types of sound healing instruments, and they're getting people to peace with that. And sometimes miracles happen. Not often, but sometimes they do. And that's really cool. But no, what we're looking at now is actually these vibrations at the cellular level, even at the atomic level, even at the organ level, at all the different levels within the body. So we're not talking about listening to music anymore. We're talking about the actual music and vibration and frequencies within the body, within the very core parts of the body. If you look at a blood cell, it's actually, when it's healthy, it's very symmetrical. When it's going into chaos, it starts breaking down. So we even see it in geometry as well as in sound vibration. So when you look at the frequency of something, based on physics, there's a very specific formula for space resonances. All you have to do is divide the frequency of into the speed of sound and in feet per second, or it's around 343 if you're using meters, and then you get the actual wavelength of the sound. And when that wavelength of the sound actually equals the distance between two parallel walls, it will resonate, it will create a standing wave and get louder. And that's space resonance. So that's wave frequencies are created in space. But there's also mechanical resonance, and it's a much more detailed mathematical formula. If you make things twice the size, half the frequency. If you, with thickness, it's inversely related to the thickness of the material. Density is inversely related to the square root. And then tension, if you have something that's taut like a string, it's like also based on a square root relationship. But then there's quantum resonance. So we've got spaces, materials, and quantum resonances. There's a few others, but those are the main ones. There's electromagnetic as well. Right? So that's the frequency level. But it's much wider than that. A lot of people come to me and they say frequency is the whole deal. And I'm like, yeah, that's one of 4 or 5 here. And some people say, oh, I love music. Music's really effective. Well, that's one part. We have the full hierarchy here. First, you have frequencies, and frequencies can be really cool. They're like a key. If you find the frequency of a cell, it will actually make that cell healthy when you actually play it to it. In fact, Lynn McTaggart actually talks about some clinical studies that show exactly that in her book, The Field. So that's the new medicine, right? Is to find the frequency of every cell, every organ, every part of the body, and resonate it into its health. But it's not just frequency. It's combinations of frequencies. If you look at the heart, based on those formulas that I just showed you, we could actually find the exact frequency of the materials of the heart, the overall spaces in the heart, the overall size of the heart, but we could also find the frequency of the fluids. We could find the frequency at the cellular level. We could find the frequency at the atomic level. There's even a frequency at the photon level or the electromagnetic level, not to mention the quantum level. What about love, right? So there's a full hierarchy of frequencies that make up the heart, not just one at all. It's a whole range of frequencies, and that's technically called a timbre. A timbre is simply a bunch of frequencies, a harmonic structure which makes up the quality of a sound. So you can think of the heart as a specific tonality. Right? So we can, when we find the frequency of all the parts of the cell, we can resonate it into harmony way better, right? Or there's also destructive resonance. We find, like they use on ultrasound on kidney stones. Find the frequency of the kidney stone, turn it up, and kablooey, right? That's destructive resonance. Well, Anthony Holland, that we're working with, has 15 frequencies that will destroy 15 types of cancer 90% of the time in the lab. But if we found all the frequencies of that cancer cell, which we can do with an electron microscope and now with light microscopes, we can now explode that cancer 100% of the time. We're talking no more chemo and radiation within even 5 to 10 years now. In fact, Johns Hopkins just introduced ultrasound on cancer, liver cancer, like about 2 months ago. They're actually offering ultrasound treatments. So it's coming into the mainstream. But then there's also the relationship of the parts of the body. So you could say, look at the frequency of the cells and then look at the relationship of the cells, or the frequency of your heart overall in relation to the frequency of the liver. And that's a very specific musical interval relationship. Here's the problem with frequencies. Not only are there multiple levels of reality and no one's pinning it down as to what they're talking about, but also everybody's different. Everybody's a little different. There's a range of the whole heart for everybody, the range of the materials, the range of the fluids, the range of the cells, right? But everybody's a little bit different. So we could get that range. That would be helpful. But what we believe is that the intervals, the relationships of the parts of the body are not different from person to person. We believe, and this is to be proven, but I would bet a lot on this one, that the relationship of the 210 cells are very specific musical intervals. Jeffrey Thompson, who's one of the main scientists in the field, he said that the actual frequency of the vertebrae that controls the adrenals is a musical fifth in relation to the adrenals. And I bet you that's for everybody, right? But again, it might be fibulating, but I bet the frequencies don't go off because we all kind of look like people. So we'll come back to that. But the music level is really the most important of all, and that includes rhythm and melody. But when you look at the music level in the body, what we're talking about is smooth musical flow through each of the 11 medical systems. The 11 medical systems include the nervous system, circulatory, skeletal, muscular, lymphatic, right? So all of these systems have smooth flow going through them when you're healthy. Let me give you an example. If you don't have smooth flow through your nervous system, you're going to be shaky. If you don't have smooth flow through your circulatory system, you could have a heart attack. If you don't have smooth flow through your digestive system, all types of problems happen. Smooth flow without blockages is the definition of health. And that's a musical flow. Let me explain it this way. If you look at the meridians, we can measure now the frequency of acupuncture points. So when energy flows through a meridian, it's playing a song. In fact, a very specific melodic progression. Ba da 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 da, right? And at a very specific tempo and rhythm. So that's a song flowing through the system. And as we all know, with acupuncture, the whole deal is smooth flow through the meridian. Poke the acupuncture point with the needle to activate it, to receive and transmit the flow. That's the whole deal. But we can actually now, we can actually find that frequency and play that frequency to the acupuncture point. But now we can actually play that, we can actually use a light microscope and find the frequency of each of the nodes within the 11 medical systems. First, we got to figure out the nodes, and we'll get some doctors to help us, because we're not talking about meridians. We're talking about the nodes, where we're going to find the notes within each of the 11 medical systems. And then we can find the rhythm easily with EKG and EEG I've been finding the metabolism of people for 15 years now and gotten really good at it. And we're creating an app that we'll have out in 6 months that will find your metabolism rhythm where you're at peace in 5 minutes based on EKG and EEG. So now we've got the actual rhythm of the 11 systems because they're all going to be related to where you're at peace. And we've got the notes. So we've now got the 11 songs flowing through each of the 11 systems, precisely tuned to you. And then we use needles with frequencies, microcurrent pads, ultrasound, infrared light, and scalar waves and run that river of flow through the 11 systems tuned precisely to you to break through all blockages and get everything flowing perfectly smoothly and cure all disease. That's where we're headed to start. I can't wait to hear my 11 songs. In fact, I've thought maybe that's why certain melodies really resonate with us. They're actually going through the body. And it's really interesting when you look at flow this way. You know, the flow through the body is like a river. A river has smooth flow, and a river is like, let's see if it's still up after our crash. There we go. A river is like infinite notes. Let me play the river here. Okay. Perfect flow. All right. Well, it's interesting. It's like infinite notes, but in the body, what we can do is play notes like through the meridians, through the acupuncture points, ba da 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 da, with smooth flow, and it will trigger that infinite flow of energy through the system. It's like the whole etheric body, the whole system is actually not just notes. It's infinite notes. So, but music can trigger that. But it's got to be smooth flowing music. Da da ba da da ba da. As opposed to what we commonly run, which is what am I going to do today? Can you believe what's happening in the world in politics? It's just crazy. It's ah.
So it looks like David froze again. I'm hoping that means that his computer didn't get unplugged. Looks like his computer got unplugged again. Okay, I assume that he's going to figure that out, and we'll be back. So I'll stop recording for the moment. And if you have any questions, or if you want to it's wonderful individual. I wonder how these wonderful individual music of the body works socially between and among people. One of the things that I'm getting is how complex these systems are, right? Um, Almost incomprehensibly. Okay.
Talking about blockages.
Blockage,
Holy moly.
blockages and Mercury retrograde.
Holy moly, right? It's
It's
like the whole, it's like, it's really, oh, right. Okay.
a deadly combination.
Okay, we're back. My power cord keeps falling off and my battery's not doing good.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna watch. I'm not gonna move around so much. Okay. Okay,
Um,
I'm back. I'm back.
um, Lana wanted to know if she could see that slide again on the 15 on the 11 systems.
Okay, yeah, I thought I showed that really shortly. Okay, I'll get back to it. Okay, okay. Here's 11 medical systems. So it's
June,
interesting.
June says your frequency is so high that we just mortals aren't joining. You're going off into the
Right,
higher realms, and you're
right,
not with
right.
you.
So yeah, whenever if it ever happens again, everybody just tone any vowel while I'm gone. Ooh. Right. Yeah, there you go. Okay. I'm so sorry. So it really gets down to flow but flow is made up of multiple parts, right? I mean, flow is made up of frequencies or notes, timbres, which are the sounds, the relationships between the frequencies and the rhythm and the melody. So flow is really all of these. So here's the problem. Most people in sound healing aren't looking at all levels. And they aren't looking at all levels of vibration. That includes sound, electromagnetics, light, and color, and even the quantum field, right? I mean, we need to look at vibration at all levels. As I always say, the more ways you lead a horse to water, the more chances it'll drink. So, also, many spiritual traditions talk about the fact that what makes us feel drawn to music is that our whole being is music. Our mind and body, the nature in which we live, the nature which has made us, all that is beneath and around us, it's all music. Even flow systems in nature are the whole deal. Smooth flow without blockages from toxins. That's really the whole deal in nature, even. It's all about flow. Uh, So you can try to get more flow first by breaking up or exploding the blockage. Like I said, we can find the resonant frequency of a cell, a cancer cell, or all of the frequencies of the cell and turn it up and explode it. Or we can sometimes use chaotic vibrations to actually break up stuck energy, whether it's in a muscle or in an emotion, like ah, ah, right? That made me feel better after all these crashes. Okay. So chaotic vibrations can break up the blockage so you get more flow. Or you can latch on to the chaos and slowly lead it to a coherent frequency. I with the emotions, you can take a chaotic emotion and go, ah, the slower you do it, the more your subconscious will believe that it's been transformed. You can also do this with cells. Or you can do the framework of balancing all frequencies. We do voice analysis where we find missing frequencies that correspond to physical and emotional issues. And when you're missing a frequency, you can listen to it and tone it, which means to sing any vowel. And it will get that frequency back in your system where you've got a balance of all frequencies, just like uh, uh, um, vitamin therapy, where you're missing a vitamin, you take a vitamin to get the full range of vitamins, all frequencies, so the energy flows. Or you can do flow with music. You can do ba da da da. Oh, that's where I was when we crashed. I got the ultimate blockage when I was doing the flow of music. So you can do or the stressful flow would be, oh God, what's going on in the world? What am I going to do today? Or the worst, which is like uh, the double bind, which leads to schizophrenia, where you have nowhere to go. You're at a dead end. The kid that's being abused and has nowhere to go. That is the worst blockage ever. And it's all about getting that flow. And so you can just do music. that's going da 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 ba da da da. And we can also tune it to the person's actual music down the line here. Uh, We all can already, I already create music to the person's rhythm and their key of their metabolism, which is really effective. Or you can do flow with emotions. I mean, gratitude's not a bad flow. Compassion's pretty cool. I mean, love is great, but universal love is really happening. And then the ultimate smooth flow is source. There's no smoother flow of energy than source. It takes over your whole system and is intelligent and knows where to break up those blockages or create flow through. So these are different ways you can actually break up and create more flow in any of the systems. Now, you can also look at this from the brain perspective, where you can measure the actual lobes and find their frequency, which is exactly what EEG does. It finds the rhythm of each of the lobes. And then we now have the frequency of each of the lobes, and we can look at how thoughts move across the brain, which EEG also shows. And that's a song. If we've got a note or frequency of a lobe and it got a rhythm that goes across the brain, it's actually playing a song. So we can actually use electrodes on your brain to get your brain back to its natural flow of you. Oh my God, there's so much more to this. Uh, so we've just been talking about mostly physical flow, a little bit emotional, but it's really also mental flow. The definition of mental flow is focus, where you're not jumping around and scattered. It's about being completely grounded and focused, which it can be cool in two ways to be able to create very detailed logic like building a tree from the roots to the leaves. Or you could do mental flow, which is just like free flow, where it's just stream of consciousness where creative ideas pop up all the time. Emotional flow, it's all about flow. I mean, let it go, let it go, let it go, right? I mean, it's like that's the whole deal is to let it go, and resonate flowing energies like love, gratitude, compassion. Spiritually, again, it's all about these higher vibrations, which could be gratitude, compassion, love, or the frequency of your soul, which is really stable and never wobbles. And Alice Bailey, actually, the spiritual teacher, she wrote all the, like, got about 15 books back in the 30s and below and before. She says that the whole deal is to build the bridge, the antakarana, to your soul. So it's the leader with stable, consistent vibration as opposed to the frickin' roller coaster that most of us are on with our emotions and mental body, which is not as much of a roller coaster. But 70% of most people have the emotional body running the show. And that's can be a wild ride. Not boring. It's not boring, and you can go into love and light, but it can be a mess. So when you raise that vibration to your mental body and where you're just overseeing it with a stable, consistent witness, or go to the soul, which has the higher perspective of source even and all past lives, then it becomes really not only a stable vibration, but perfectly smooth flow. But again, the ultimate is to connect to source. Source, see source as an actual, as all frequencies. When anybody, including myself, that have been one with the universe, they say, I was everything. Well, that's all frequencies. And you can actually start to get there by actually tuning in to multiple things at once. When you tune into multiple things at once, your brain goes into a state of theta, which is between 3.5 and 7 cycles per second, which is where you are in your brain when you're one with the universe, mostly in theta when you're one with the universe, tuned into all frequencies. So if you look at like a sparkles on the water, the left brain can't handle it. You go into the right brain and you go into theta. Or look at a view, or all listen to all the frequencies in music, or all the sounds in music, or all the frequencies in a sound concert or sound bath, like all the frequencies of the harmonics of the bowls, or all of the frequencies of a gong. Holy moly, like thousands of frequencies. The left brain can't handle it. So you go into the right brain, which is theta, which is just a step away from being one with the universe. Multiple things at once get you out of the prefrontal cortex where it's like, how are we going to fix it? How are we going to fix it? Okay, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. When you go into the whole brain, where you can actually access way more levels of flow and combinations of frequencies. Right? Now, we got a $100,000 grant to take our entire curriculum into two Montessori schools. We've now created 2,500 exercises for kids from 3 months all the way up to 18 years, and we're now getting massive grants to create a whole curriculum based on musical flow for 30 schools around the world. We're going to do a think tank for 2 years. We've already got the 2,500 exercises, but we're going to expand it into every subject matter. And the core thread through it all is the basis of the universe of vibration, of, of frequencies, timbres, musical intervals, and musical flow. But for the kids, we simplified it. Peace, which is the frequency level, harmony, and flow. Peace, harmony, and flow makes it really easy for them. And we look with the kids, we look at the flow systems in nature. We look at the harmony within emotions, a harmony within relationships. It's basically all always one, many, and flow over time. This is the basis of all reality. One, many, and flow over time. So you can look at this physically, one, many, and flow. Like we said, physically, it'd be the cells, the relationship between the cells, and the musical flow through the 11 systems. Emotionally, we can look at frequency of an emotion. We can look at the relationship of emotions, even to other people, and the flow of emotions, whether they're flowing or stuck. And mentally, again, we can look at all three levels, even spiritually. You can look at physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, at all levels of vibration. And here's the whole deal. This is really the most important frame of all. It's all about peace. Peace, when you're at peace, your immune system works better. All organs go into alignment. You're way more creative. And it's a portal to other dimensions where you're one with it, with the universe. Peace at the frequency level, which you could say is the cells, is just consistent vibration instead of chaos. At the timbre level, it would be a warm sound instead of a chaotic sound. Although chaotic sounds can break up stuff and get you back to peace. But if you're just going for the peace and the sound itself, that would be like a harp as opposed to a gong. Right? So then at the musical interval level, it's a beautiful chord, as opposed to a dissonant chord. But at the music level, it's all about flow, smooth flow that we've been talking about. This is peace at every level of vibration. And it's a little different for each level. But that's the whole deal. Now there is some activation you have to have through your system to keep things going. So there is a certain component of activation, but peace is what we mostly all need for the body to work better. Again, the immune system's way better, and every organ goes into alignment based on peace. That's well proven. Now, the same system is going on in nature. You've got the frequencies of the atoms. A bunch of atoms make up a molecule, which is a timbre. Molecules also create all of the elements of earth, fire, air, and water, which are also timbres, just a combination of frequencies. And then the relationship between earth, air, fire, and water is kind of a big deal. It's a huge deal. If you got too much fire, it's a real problem. If you got too much water, you got floods. If you got too much wind, it's not only in nature but also in Chinese medicine. It's all about a balance of the timbres of earth, air, fire, and water. The relationship, the music, and those are all musical interval relationships. But the flow system through nature, the relationship of flow through the ecosystems and relationships of all the parts flowing through each other, whether it's the roots of the trees connecting to each other or the weather flow, it's all about smooth flow that makes a healthy ecosystem. And the problem is toxins and pollution gets in the way. Some people even say that our emotional toxins get in the way of weather. But it's all about these blockages. And so it's about cleaning up the blockages so things will flow again. And we've got a healthy planet. It's all about flow. So this hierarchy of vibration, frequency, timbre, intervals, and musical flow is the same at all levels of reality. Let's look at color and light. Well, at the frequency level, we've got the three primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. All of the other colors are combinations of these frequencies. Orange is yellow and red. Purple is red and blue. Green is yellow and blue. So all of the colors are generally timbres, which are combinations of the core frequencies. But then you can look at the relationship between the actual colors. The relationship between red and green is kind of dissonant, whereas red and orange is a little more harmonious, or even red and yellow is pretty cool, right? Blue and green is really harmonious. And when you work with color at this level, that becomes a big deal. What actually creates harmony with the colors versus dissonance, which is the musical interval relationship level. But then you start moving the actual colors with animation or visualizing them flowing or even spinning. Now you've got flow, animated flow. And that's the coolest level, whether it's smooth. But then it's the same in geometry. You've got the circle, which is the frequency level. Could be a sphere. A bunch of circles create a really complex timbre. The flower of life has all geometries in the universe in it. It's just simply made up of a bunch of circles. You can draw the flower of life with a compass by drawing a bunch of circles. We have the kids doing it. But then you can look at the relationships of different geometries to each other, or you can look at the relationships of the parts of the geometry. If you've got a triangle where one side is 3 lengths and another side is 2 lengths, that's a 3-to-2 relationship, which is a musical fifth, the exact same as a musical fifth. So we can take the relationships of all the parts within any geometry and make music out of it, or at least uh, uh, well, we haven't got to time yet, so we just have intervals. Our instructor Randy Masters took a the Sri Yantra and measured the length of each of the sides of all the triangles in the Sri Yantra and created chimes based on those musical interval relationships. But then you start spinning a sacred geometry or moving it through space. Oh my God, you get really interesting energy fields. It's a whole nother level of flow. But then there's electromagnetics. And this is really interesting because there's a lot of companies that are now coming out with very cool frequency devices like the Healy, the PEMF. I mean, there's all types. I mean, there's even the med bed that's working at the quantum level. There's all these different, I mean, very expensive and very possibly very cool devices. But I'm really skeptical because most of them are just using frequency. It's cool. Frequency is cool. It's way better than chaos. And it's just like, having a tuning fork. Even if you don't have the right frequency, it still feels pretty good. It's a stable, consistent vibration of peace. So getting a stable, consistent frequency is good. Right? But what about, I mean, why aren't they working with the timbre level? What about the combinations of frequencies electromagnetically? What about the relationships of the frequencies? And especially, what about the musical flow through the system? No one is looking at musical flow in electromagnetics that I've come across. That's the deal. That's the whole deal. Now, this is complex. It's like when we start looking at what is the right song when we're talking about musical flow for anybody or anything, we can measure the notes. But most people, when they're doing research on music, they go, okay, here's a cool song. Let's test it and see how effective it is. Well, what we really need to do is to actually break down all the parameters, which I've done. I wrote the number one selling book in the world in audio recording. It's called The Art of Mixing, and I map out all musical parameters of music and added a few, including flow, smooth flow, myself. And in my sound healing book, I actually go through all the parameters as well. Well, what parameters are doing what for each issue? That's what we should be looking at. What parameters and combinations of parameters of the 13 parameters of music theory, right? What are those combinations of parameters or individual parameters doing for depression? What's the best combination or for each parameter for anxiety? What about PTSD? What about dementia? What about all the different mental, emotional, and physical issues? That's the research, exploratory research that I'm really interested in. So we can, over time, find the exact music, not only just to listen to, but ultimately flowing through the system. Musical flow is the whole deal more than anything. Let's not forget the horse. The whole deal is actually all of it at once. Okay. Then there's the quantum level. The quantum level is intention, thought forms, and emotions. Same. One, mini, and flow. You could have one frequency of love that you're holding. Or you could do love wisdom. Two frequencies. Or you could imagine spirit coming down the crown, going out the heart. flowing through your whole body, and earth energy coming up the feet, out your heart. So now you've got a whole flow of energy from spirit out your heart and earth out your heart. And now you're running a flow intention instead of just a frequency intention. And you add flow to, I mean, you add that intention to electromagnetics or to geometry or to color and light or to sound. And as we all know, or you probably wouldn't be here, we go to a whole nother level because of all the levels of energy or vibration. Quantum level is the most effective where you get intention. Right? Again, the more ways you lead a horse to water, the more chances it'll drink. We're going to use sound, electromagnetics, color, and light, and quantum, all levels, at all levels of vibration, frequency, combinations of frequencies, musical interval relationships, and musical flow, all levels. And I bet something will happen. What we're talking about, where we're headed, is now with this light microscope, there's a couple I've heard of now that can measure scientifically the frequency of all frequencies within a cell and tell you exactly. You can do it with an electron microscope, but it has to be in vitro. And so we can actually measure all 70 trillion cells now. Oh my God. Oh my God, somebody said about plants as well. Plants have their whole timbre and flow systems as well. But we can measure all 70 trillion cells and look at the musical interval relationships between all of those cells with AI and map out the template of musical interval perfection for a human. And I bet it's the same pretty much for everybody because we all kind of look like people. We're all a little bit different because we all have a little bit different flows and songs going through that template. But I believe the template is very much the same. The relationship of the frequencies is the template. So that's where we're headed. And my guides said at one point about 6 months ago, they said, you know, using this framework of music, you can actually heal every disease there is. And I'm like, what did you say? And they said, you can heal, probably not in my lifetime, but where we're headed now is we are just getting massive funding to set up a research facility to start tracking down every disease and based on a framework of flow. Some doctors in certain areas are already looking at flow. I mean, if you're a doctor of the circulatory system or working with the heart, it's what are you get? I mean, we're getting blood clots that are getting in the way of flow. They're thinking about flow. The nervous system, they're often thinking about flow, but it's really even down to the cellular level. Now, remember I said I think of the cells as the frequencies. A bunch of cells make up an organ, which is a timbre. The relationship of the organs and cells is the interval, and the flow through all of that, energy flow, is the whole deal. But there's flow systems in the cell. If you look at all of the components of the cell, mitochondria and stuff, they're all flow systems, not only within the cell, but from the systems outside the cell coming in and out. And then you go even deeper and you see the flow of the electrons. And then I just interviewed Bruce Lipton. They've now got a light microscope that can measure the spin of the actual atomic flow. So we can actually get down to that level. But then, oh my God, about 6 months ago, I read that you guys might know that they've already discovered in quantum physics that all matter, I guess it is, goes in and out of reality every split second. It's like, oh yeah, right. It's like it's proven, right? And I read that it goes in and out of reality 600 billion times per second. Now, that's one of the most important frequencies. I bet every state of consciousness, down to like Bruce Lipton talks about, every state of consciousness affects the cells. So we're talking at the core level now. So we can look at the frequency or the flow. Now, when you get that deep at the atomic level, as you guys probably know, it's all flow. There's no stuff anymore. It's all flow, and it's proven. You zoom in with a microscope far enough, and it's just energy fields moving around. It's not, it's there's no stuff. It's all flow. So the whole deal is, what is the song? At that level. Oh, here comes a little flow. Hey you. Okay. So it's really interesting. And then there's the people that talk about the Taurus being the whole deal. Well, the Taurus is really a song. It's like ba da 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 da. And what's the tempo of that rhythm of the flowing of the Taurus? So we could actually even map the Taurus into a song. And like, how big is the torus? Is it a low frequency or is it a really small frequency? What's the tempo? How fast is it going? I mean, we can actually, and that's the basis of all reality based on, you guys know his name. What's his name? I forget his name. So they say there's, a torus around every cell. There's a torus, electromagnetic torus around our body. There's a torus around our galaxy. There's a torus everywhere. And so that we can even look at it from a musical perspective. And what are the notes within that musical flow of the torus? Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the basis of all reality. Okay. So really, when you get down to it, we can look at a cell as a frequency, or we can zoom in and look at it as a flow system. We're talking particle is the frequency, wave is the flow. Or you can look at the universe. Oh my God, you zoom out, you got unbelievable harmonic flow of galaxies in relation to each other. I mean, the flow mathematically of Fibonacci and golden mean through the entire universe and everything rotating around, and maybe the whole thing, the Big Bang is a torus, right? There's unbelievable flow. But if you zoom out far enough, they say our universe is one frequency, and there are many other universes that are other frequencies. You can always look at anything from a frequency perspective or a flow perspective. And as they say in quantum physics, when you look at something from the particle level, that's what you see. When you look at something from the wave level, that's what you see. Same thing, frequency or flow. One of the simplest things you can do is any vowel to create a stable, consistent frequency. Okay, everybody do a vowel with me. Just breathe in and do any vowel. Now, let's send the flow of love out to the whole planet with a sound. So we're simply adding an intention or energy on the quantum level to this sound. So bring love into your heart and send this love through the sound out to the whole planet. Let's go for the whole universe. Okay, okay, let's do it. The biggest problem with let me say this. In physics, there's a law of physics that says a strong vibration will overcome a weaker vibration and entrain the weaker into the stronger. I call it dominant resonance, but it's actually called force resonance in physics. That is the basis of all change in the universe. A strong vibration overcoming a weaker. This is a real problem on this planet. The biggest problem we have is mass consciousness. Everybody is so entrained into mass consciousness, that strong vibration, for thousands of years. It's even in our DNA. And it's a freaking mess. So we have to work so hard to create our own stable vibration and our own flows to be able to overcome all of this, not only emotional stuff of anxiety and fear and anger that's in the field, but also to overcome this really strong vibration of negative beliefs that we are not good enough or empowered. Right? So it's also the brain is built based on stronger vibrations. Whenever you have something that repeats in the brain, it creates ruts in the neuroplasticity, right? You in your brain, you get very deep ruts. And as everybody knows, to change a behavior is really hard because of that. Because a strong vibration is entraining your brain into very specific neural pathways. So it's very difficult to break out of those ruts. But it's the deal. You know how to do it now. Anything that creates flow, and that could be just being in a flow state, which is the moment. When you're in the moment, you are in the flow. You're not tracking time because you are the flow. You can watch it from outside that being in the moment, where you see any changes that are happening. But what's really cool, and this is very high level manifestation, to be able to be in the flow, and especially to see all from source, and be able to stay in that flow and still use your will or divine will to actually shift things. It's really tricky because the second you start thinking about changing things, it takes you out of the flow, out of the moment. So it's a very serious type of manifestation where you're in the flow and you go, eek, right? Eek. That's where we're all headed. We kind of all have got love down, for more or less. Manifestation, we've got a long ways to go with that one. Okay, so flow is the whole deal. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that. Um, there are just a couple of questions. Somebody wanted to know about could you give a couple examples of what you teach the children, like of those exercises? I assume they're fairly simple.
Well, a lot of it is creating a stable, consistent rhythm. Like we'll do body percussion where it's like ooh, oh, ah, oh, ooh, oh, ah, oh, ooh, oh, ooh, oh, ah, oh, right? And get a flow of rhythm and music through the body with body percussion. And so that's one way. Basically, doing sound as well. We have them making the sound of how they're feeling. We actually have a thing where I went through every emoji you could imagine, and and uh, uh, and had them make the sound of every emotion. And then we got them where they're making the sound of how they feel. And this one little girl, oh my God, it was so cute. Krissa was 4 years old. She says, "Can we do the sound of love?" And I'm like, "Okay." And she goes, ooh. I'm like, cool, right? And then 6 months later, I'm teaching a class for the Shift Network. And I've got 500 students, 500 adults that are scared to death to make sound still. And there's Chris's mom is in the class. And there's Krissa in the class with 500 adults. And I'm like, Krissa. She's like, hi. And I said, Krissa, you want to make the sound of love for these 500 adults and lead them? And she's like, oh, yeah, she's a graduate now, right? Oh, yeah. And Krissa does, ooh, and leads 500 adults. That kid will never be afraid to make sound and express herself again, ever. And when you can't express yourself, that is a blockage, no flow, and it manifests physically in the body.
That's amazing. Is this curriculum something that is available to look at, or is it
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have 500 exercises you can download right now. Go to soundeducationassociation.com. And I got to say this in case I forget. With our funding, we're creating a new educational system and a new medical system. If anybody we're looking for scientists and doctors and researchers that are really high level to be able to help us with these different projects. So if anybody listening or anybody knows anybody, uh, have them get in touch with me because we've got a framework to really start figuring things out. Again, I'm not really interested in proving what we have. I'm interested in figuring out how the universe works completely because that's the holy grail. And once
exactly?
we,
It's noble work.
oh, I have to say one more thing. I forgot. We're working with Jeffrey Martin, who now has frequencies that he can play on microtubules in the brain with ultrasound that will bring you into oneness and unity consciousness in the lab every time. So much so that he's teaching classes on how to incorporate oneness into your life because you could go homeless, right, if you're in universal love all the time. And so, and
Right.
then we can do brain maps and entrain you into compassion, where the lobes would be with compassion, or entrain your brain into oneness, right? When you're one with the universe, there's no more anxiety, there's no more depression. There's no more PTSD. There's no more mental emotional issues. We now have a cure for all disease and all mental emotional issues. We're on the path. I see the light. It's probably not even going to happen in my lifetime, but we're planting the seed to really
What is that?
figure this all out.
By the way, I love that your cat came and sat behind your head.
Yeah, she's got a
Feeling
strong
the
frequency.
frequency.
Yeah.
Um, Elizabeth wants to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you, Elizabeth, to unmute yourself.
Okay, is that me?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's you.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to ask David, right? Have you ever worked with a patient who had Tourette syndrome with this sound healing vibration, and or have you heard of someone doing what you do, working with a person with Tourette's, and has it shown to be proven to be effective in helping them reduce their symptoms, their tics?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people with Tourette's, but I haven't really worked in detail, and I think it's way more detailed than what I know, right? But I would bet that peace at with music and sound, whether it's playing your music and sound yourself or listening to it, and especially what we've been talking about, tuning it to the person, I bet that would be really effective because it's known that when you're at peace, the Tourette's is way less.
Thank you.
Hmm.
It's interesting you say that because when I went to a basically a psychic fair, and someone through muscle testing said that my personal vibrations were in the level of peace. Yeah,
Hmm.
at least at the moment they muscle tested me.
Oh,
And
cool, cool.
yeah, so it's interesting that you say that, David. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Oh, really interesting. Thank you.
I think
Okay.
ultimately we'll be able to figure out the mechanisms behind it and find out exactly why the flow is getting interrupted. But I don't think we even know that yet. Maybe we do. I don't. I haven't looked into it medically enough.
So I have a technical question about how to find frequencies of a cell using a microscope. How's that done?
Well, I've heard from two doctors that and from Bruce Lipton, there's actually light microscopes, and that's all I know. When we're ready to go, I'm going to dive in and find out exactly what those microscopes are. There's the Raman spectroscopy that will measure the entire frequency content of a cell scientifically, but only in vitro, out of the body. So, but the light microscopes will actually do it. I mean, technically, MRI is measuring the frequency of the electromagnetics within the body. It's already
Mhm.
doing it. But the problem with MRI, I mean, I just had an MRI like 6 months ago, and I'm still recovering. So the trick is to actually have techniques that don't kill people, right? And these light microscopes don't
Yeah.
seem to kill people.
Mm, I love that. June Ahern said she had an interesting coincidence this morning. Met a young woman at a coffee shop, excuse me, a coffee shop, who talked to her about this subject of and the Sound Institute in Sausalito. And did I know of it? And now here she is. It's meant to be.
That's funny.
Isn't that interesting? And Florence says she wants to put in a word for many folks who were told when they were young that they can't sing.
Oh
What an
my
awful
God.
thing to do to someone.
Yeah, here's what I
Uh,
always say on
yeah.
that one. Go find that person and kick them in the knee. Right? I mean, that's wrong. I mean, it's like here's the deal. We had it down to be able to release stuck emotions with sound when we were born. If you had anything going on, you let it out with a sound. Ah! Right? Then around 1 or 2, it's like shh, blockage, right? Shh. And then we go to school and there's no more sound. And work, no more sound, except around here. And we lose that God given ability to express ourselves. So many people are scared to just go, you
And let
need
it
to,
move through.
you got to practice that. Especially the sound of how you're feeling. Oh, it's so cool. We've got a contract with the largest dementia company in California, in Napa, called Providence. We've been working with them for 2 years, and we've got a sound lounge there. We've got all these vibroacoustics we created and vests and stuff. But we also are teaching them to make the sound of how they feel. And a couple of months ago, there was a guy that we'd already done a lot of call and response to get them comfortable making sound again. And this one guy was like this. He was totally catatonic. And I said, "Can you make the sound of how you feel?" And he looks up and he goes, "Ah." And then he looks up at me and smiles and goes back down. Total connection.
Wow.
You don't need words anymore.
Mm. So another question about the kids.
Mm.
You have this curriculum in two Montessori schools, you said?
Yeah, we've got it in a couple of Montessori schools. We did 6 months of classes with 3 to 6 year olds, and then there's a lot of people using exercises throughout the world. But what we're doing right now is with the grant, we're going to get a whole we got all the 2,500 exercises, but we're going to get masters in Orff and Waldorf and Montessori and masters at curriculum and do a think tank for a year and create the main curriculum for kids that teaches math based on nature, instead of the math I learned in school, which has, I still don't know why I learned it. Right? And also teaches kids in a way that's really fun, so that it's a blast, and so that they come out of there with zero fear of learning. They're excited to learn because it's so much fun. And the most important part, no kid left behind. Right
Mhm.
now, 25% of all kids are labeled failures when they don't pass the Common Core test, which is in almost all schools in the US right now. And that leads to drugs and or crime, and especially therapy the rest of their life, because then they've been labeled not good enough. And that's horrible. It's horrible. We have to find the gifts of every single kid and teach them about all levels of vibration through all of reality, whether it's chemistry or history or relationships, and use the basis of physics and flow as the whole. They can even create a business based on sustainable business where everything is talking to everybody else, and there's flow systems that create smooth flow of communication.
I mean, that's the way for the future, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
It's where we're going. It's where we need to go,
what we're doing is
right?
we're going to create 30 schools in 30 countries and track it for 3 years in detail. We've already figured out how to do it based on the testing system for the U.S. because we're part. One of my friends was on the board of the testing system for the U.S. So we'll track it for 3 years in a credible way, and then go to the governments and say, look how focused these kids are, how happy they are emotionally, mentally, emotionally, and socially and emotionally, and
Right.
you
How
should
connected they are to
incorporate.
each other and to their world,
Right,
right?
right,
You're
exactly.
giving a language to interact with their world
I mean,
in a
ultimately,
really holistic way.
what I've learned also is when you do service, everything flows.
Very
How
high
many
spiritual teaching.
how many people can we help?
Yeah. So there's a question, do you have an option for homeschooling families to have access to this curriculum? And a related question, where can kids get these types of classes right now?
Oh, well, you can get the exercises and download them and use them for homeschooling. And we actually have about 200 hours of video that we're collating. So we'll have video of each exercise as well with the kids. So that should be ready in about 6 months. But the exercises are already on the site,
Sound
soundeducationassociation.com.
Education
Yeah, we
Association.
got them categorized for, th- uh, you know, uh, uh, 3 months to a year and a half, a year and a half to 3 years, 3 to 6, 6 to 12, and 12 to 18.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It was unbelievable to imagine a kid going through this curriculum, which is progressive. So every single exercise has a goal for the outcome when they graduate. I mean, I know most teachers don't even know why they're teaching. There's a lot
Mm.
that do know the exercise, what the whole goal is. But often, I mean, I didn't know why I was learning things, and now there will be a reason you're learning something that can be taught, told to you, so you, because I won't learn anything unless I know why I'm learning it.
If a person is hearing impaired, does that affect therapy?
Oh, well,
Interesting.
there's still vibration on the body. We've got vibroacoustics where we've got sound tables, sound lounges that vibrate, sound vests, sound pillows, sound dolphins. So you can put the vibration right on the body. And even if you can't hear, you're still running, either flow or not of emotions. So it still is really, really, in fact, it's probably the best thing that should be in every center for the hearing impaired, is to really focus on this so that, so that blockage doesn't become the focus. It's not even, don't even think of it as a blockage. Actually, I have to tell you about a year ago. This one of my friends gave me some oil to clear out my ear, and it had gone bad, and my ear went deaf for a whole day and a half, and I couldn't hear anything. And it was like, oh my god, a sound guy that can't hear, right? And it was, but it was really cool because after about the first hour or two of completely freaking out, I thought, what's this like? And it was so peaceful,
Mm.
so much more peaceful. But when I went to the doctor and they flushed out the bad oil, I was still really happy to get it back.
Yeah. Can I ask you, you don't have to answer this one if you don't want to. You mentioned you are in partnership with some guides that I assume are non-incarnate.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've got a whole group of beings. It's like a psychic years ago said, Dave, there's a whole group of beings on the other side that are way more interested in your project than you are. And like I said, do I have to get out of bed? And they said, nope, don't even have to get out of bed. And so, yeah, I seem to have some help on the other side. And in the morning when I'm in theta, I often get downloads as to ideas, as to how to work with with vibration. So I've got helpers, and it could just be my higher self connected to source, right? Because that ultimately all information is out there in the ether. It's just a matter of being still enough so that you can hear it.
So that you can hear it, being attuned, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do a last call for questions, and I'm going to ask you the best way for people to get in touch with you, especially I'm going to renew that call if there are scientists or healers or people or researchers that are interested in working with David or contributing to this project with their expertise. Please give him a shout out. How do people connect with you?
So my email is david@soundhealingcenter.com. David@soundhealingcenter.com. You can call the school and you can get through to me there eventually through at 415-777-2486. We also have online classes as well. Uh, and then our main website, we've got 14 websites that because we do voice analysis, we do brainwave assessments, but the main site has links to all of it, and that's soundhealingcenter.com.
Okay. Yeah, I was on that website earlier today. It's all there. It's all,
Oh,
everything that David's doing, getting uh connecting with him, getting personal healing, the research programs, the education programs, you can find it all there. Um,
store as well.
does the name Nicole Lavoie and sound energy wave mean anything to David?
Say again?
Nicole Lavoie, L-A-V. The question from Kent is, does the name Nicole Lavoie,
Yes.
Lavoie,
Yeah, she did a whole thing
sound
on
energy
voice.
wave?
She did a whole thing on voice analysis, actually, and actually came up with finding what frequencies were missing, and then she would play those back out to you. But they were really annoying, so a lot of people didn't like them. But the concept is really cool, and there's a lot of people doing voice analysis. She was one of the early ones that did it. She's been doing it for God for 30 years, a really long time.
Wow. I wonder, do you think it's annoying to hear those sounds because you're missing them or that, they're not in your frequency and that's just,
Yeah, I've learned this. I have to
why
say,
would they be annoying?
well, there's a certain part of our system that can't handle annoying sounds, right? We just, I mean, if you're fragile, you really can't handle it. So we are built to not to want harmony and peace and sweet sounds. Right? Sometimes, we might like a little heavy metal, to break things up. But for the most part, people can't handle too much dissonance. Like I had a guy, it was so interesting. This guy, really cool researcher, called me up about 6 months ago and he goes, Dave, I've got all of these different frequencies from 11 different modalities. And when I play them all together, you're getting these 11 modalities all at once, and it's incredibly healing. And I thought, 11 frequency sets that aren't tuned together? Please do not play that for me. Because I'm really fragile. I would just probably fall apart. It'd be a mess, right? So most people, I mean, Maybe if you played it at the quantum level, right? But we, it's so when you're playing frequencies that are, it's kind of like, if you've got a problem and you break stuff up, you can get a healing crisis where things detox too fast. You can think of it that way. It's actually, it could break things up. You might be a puddle on the floor, but I mean, people die from detox all the time. You have to be careful with it. So, yeah, so
Yeah.
you have to balance out the harmony with what you need. I mean, with the voice analysis, we're finding the frequencies that are missing. And that can be a little difficult for people that are really fragile. Whereas with the brainwave assessment, we find your rhythm of your metabolism where you're at peace. Just about anybody can handle that. So it's like, do you want to just go to peace or do you want to do some work? And some people aren't ready to do work. They're too fragile, especially if you're just out of the
Mhm.
hospital or have dementia or even have something major going on emotionally.
Yeah, a good point to make. So going back to Nicole of Wash, Kent says she related sound something to the sound of calcium. Are
Well,
you familiar
yeah,
with that?
yeah. I've actually
Might
in my
be
classes,
interesting to look that.
we actually hand out frequencies for every mineral and every vitamin in our classes. And it's Jeffrey Thompson proved that when you play the frequency of oxygen, you get more oxygen in your blood in a clinical study. And so you can do the frequency of vitamin C or calcium, and it will bring it into your body. I mean, this is where we're talking about not only healing stuff, but also, getting you really, really just, I mean, we can get rid of all stuff.
Yeah, I truly believe that's really on the horizon.
Oh,
I think this is very exciting. I'm going to ask the one last question from Sue. She wants to know if there's a visual equivalent to vibrational healing for people who are hearing impaired.
oh yeah, that's the sacred geometry I showed. It's
Oh,
exactly
okay.
color and the sacred geometry, and they have the whole same hierarchy. So that would be color and sacred geometry, exactly what I showed. Yeah, that is the visual component of it.
Mm.
Or you can look at nature. I mean, nature. I mean, watch for flow systems within nature. It's interesting. Nature has perfect sacred geometry that puts out the marching orders of harmony and perfection. And then chaos messes it up, which makes every single blade of grass and tree a little different and every person a little different, which is beautiful. So there's
Beautiful.
all of the visual world is an interesting balance of perfection of the hierarchy and chaos that makes it a little unique. So everything's unique.
That is a great place to end that. That is really, really wonderful. Thank you, David. As always, your work is so exciting, and I can't wait for you to come back and tell us what you're finding and how this is progressing because I just think um, it's fast, right? It's
Yeah,
happening fast.
yeah, yeah. One last
I'm very
sound.
excited.
One last sound for everybody. Okay,
Yeah,
everybody.
so thank you everyone for being here.
One last
Uh,
sound. One last sound.
yes,
Okay, everybody, think of a time when you're in
Vanessa.
a state of complete joy and go back to that time of joy and feel it completely. And then everybody make the sound of that, any sound of joy. Feel more joy. That's your homework.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. See you next time, everyone. Have a great evening. Thanks again, David.
Bye.
Bye-bye.